Hello and welcome back. Today, the future isn't AI replacing people. The future is people who know how to work with AI, outperforming those who don't. So, if you're afraid and you're wondering, how does our future look with this new technology? Today is a fabulous day to join us. We are speaking with Koreen Pagano. She is a globally recognized executive with deep expertise in skills strategy, AI transformation, analytics, learning tech, and immersive experiences. And I'll let her tell you all about all the rest of her accolades. But we're happy that she's here with us today. We are Nate and Simone. We talk all things marketing and welcome. Welcome, Kareem. Hey, Nate.
Hey,
Thank you.
hey.
Let's get going.
Hey.
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting conversation, I have a feeling. I'm a sci-fi nerd, self-described kind of,
Oh, here,
and
here, me
all
too.
this AI stuff is like right up my alley. So I jump at any kind of chance to talk about this kind of stuff. And most of the people that I know, grow weary of hearing me talk about it. So it's fun to talk about people, amongst the, like minds, I suppose. So, a lot of business owners may feel pressured to adopt AI. Korean, I'm sure you understand this, but most probably don't know where AI fits in, how to prepare their team for it, how to avoid replacing people, with these tools that can't think for them, right? And um, three things that we always talk about on this show are visibility. So how can, like in this case, how can AI amplify your team's output and consistency and create that visibility that they need, right? Viability, but hopefully also with visibility, they're able to communicate and have capture the information that they need as well. Viability, having the right skills to make AI usable, I think is going to be key in that case, and able to grow with the company, right? And then value, right? We always talk about visibility, viability, and value. Value, in this case, a business that can blend human capabilities with technology these days can be a lot more resilient and transferable. This is the type of stuff that's on top of everybody's minds. It's really interesting to people. So yeah, I think that's how it kind of fits in broadly. So why? Um, okay, let's just kick it off with a question here. Well, actually, let's back it up even further. Kareem, tell us who you are, how you got to this point.
Yeah. I'm not a marketing person. I'm a product tech and most of the products in tech that I've worked on have been in the learning space. But I've launched a lot of products and help bring products to market. So I've worked really closely with marketing folks. Some of my best friends are marketing are marketers who I've worked really closely with over the years in thinking about how do you successfully grow a business, how do you successfully launch products. And I've always been the product tech kind of geek person to the marketing voice and folks that are really, really good at thinking about communicating value. So I've done that in companies that have spanned my own startup many years ago to joining lynda.com, an early stage product. I actually started the product marketing function there, so I dabbled a little bit in your world. And then was acquired by LinkedIn, which folks know, and stayed at LinkedIn for a while, and then continued my career working in a variety of learning tech spaces, companies like D2L, Degreed, Wiley. And in those functions, I was helping reimagine the businesses that I was helping lead, worked a lot with AI. Early days before LLMs were around, I was building back-end intelligence, machine learning products. And for the last 8 years or so, I've really been focused on skills and how to think about what skills people need to be successful in their jobs. And certainly that has been changed dramatically in the last couple of years as AI has come on the scene. And I think given all of us pause in thinking about what do our jobs look like in this world
Mm.
where AI is running alongside us and working alongside us. So I also should just plug, I did recently launch a book called Building the Skills-Based Organization,
Awesome.
which is really focused on the people side. So that's a little bit of
Perfect.
my background, but I now have a company called Rising Tide Cooperative, and we work with organizations on AI transformation holistically, but looking specifically at the people side of the business and what work do people do now alongside AI automation. So I'm super excited to have this conversation today. I think there's a lot of misconceptions out there. There's a lot of fear. There's a lot of people trying to
Oh,
figure
yes.
out what the
Yeah.
future looks like. So it's a interesting topic and excited to be here.
Yeah, I read a an article. It was a survey, I think, conducted by PricewaterhouseCooper. And they were asking business owners, what do you think about AI, basically? And a lot of them said, you know, we're not in on it, and it
Yeah.
was interesting, I think, if I remember correctly, and forgive me, I don't have it in front of me, but if I remember correctly, female business owners in particular were very reticent to accept AI, which I thought was interesting. Not sure why. Maybe
I
risk
have some
takers,
ideas.
maybe it's a risk taking thing, right? Men are notorious for taking risks, right? But so maybe that's how I have no idea. It's very interesting, but and curious. So. And then another thing that I read recently was like well, maybe let's just get on here. I'll think about it here a second. So where where do you see AI breaking down when businesses try to overuse it?
I think one of the misconceptions I see a lot is that folks think that AI can replace people. And AI is not yet good enough and maybe never will be good enough to completely replace a person's role. But AI is good enough to replace tasks, especially things that are
Yeah,
repetitive or um, like within specific guidelines. I
yeah,
kind of joke about AI as being a toddler. Sometimes it does something amazing, and you're like, oh, wow, it must be really smart. And then
yeah,
other times it hallucinates, it doesn't do what you
yeah,
ask. It's kind of all
yeah,
over the place, and you're like, oh, this
yeah,
I could have done this faster without
yeah,
without
yeah.
AI.
Yeah.
I
So
literally had that same conversation with someone recently. We were working on a project together. This could have been so much faster. We just done it, right?
just
Yeah,
without AI, right? So
yeah.
we're at the early stages of AI
Mhm.
maturity. And I do think that there's kind of three camps that I see. There's the folks that are like overexcited, really excited about what AI is going to be able to do, and those are the folks that tend to think that AI can replace people.
Mhm.
And there's lots of things out in the news about AI replacing people. And I will say, if
Totally.
AI can replace your job, then you're not really probably adding a lot of value outside of task repetition. And so, or using your full capabilities, really, right? Like you're being
Yeah.
underutilized if AI can
Yeah.
replace you. There's a bunch of folks that haven't started yet or are like really hesitant and they're at the other end of the spectrum that really haven't jumped in and they're kind of waiting to see what's going to happen with AI. And well, I think that's fair because AI is rapidly changing. I do think that there's a danger that not learning at this stage about how to think about AI and practicing with AI and really testing for yourself on how it can be leveraged is probably dangerous for your business if you're not kind of trying it yet. And
Yeah.
then there's the middle group. And the middle group is kind of all over the place. And they're like trying it, they're experimenting, they're trying to figure out how it can be used. Some of them waffle between those two extremes as they're doing their experiments of like, oh my gosh, it's amazing. Oh my gosh, we shouldn't be doing this yet. Um,
Yeah.
but I think that's the right place to be right now, is in that middle stage where you're deeply thinking about and considering what the opportunities are, especially for your business. And so that middle group is probably the ones that are learning the most and are kind of figuring things out for their specific business, for their specific industry, for their specific products.
Nice. Um, yeah, I just kind of remembered what I was thinking about. It was several years ago, maybe about, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago, I'd read an article that said something to the effect of, in about 5 years, there's going to be about 30 million jobs replaced due to automation. But I don't think I certainly didn't have any clue that it was going to be kind of white collar jobs, right? Like
Yeah.
some of these jobs, white collar, are at risk, as you say, because they're more
Yeah.
process oriented and have to do with factual information. Maybe I don't know what kind of jobs would that fall under? Do you, in your
Yeah.
opinion?
I definitely think there's a much bigger risk to white collar jobs at this point than there are um, what we would typically call blue collar jobs or frontline workers. And what I will say is that I think, well, since you all talk about marketing a lot, I'll give
Yeah,
marketing as an example. I
yep,
think that there are aspects of marketing that can be automated. I think there are processes and steps and a lot of the marketing operations
yeah,
functions can absolutely be reimagined and thought through from a automation perspective. What I think
100%.
we're all experiencing right now is that folks who over automate on the marketing side start to see
Hmm.
diminishing returns because
Mm,
humans are reacting to AI in interesting ways right now,
yeah.
and we don't necessarily want to interact with AI yet
Mm,
in a consumer capacity. We don't even
yeah,
really want to interact with AI all the time in a customer support capacity or in a
yeah,
product, right? Like there's kind of all of these elements,
Or in content. I
right?
know there's a big
yeah,
push to use all this AI content,
Yeah.
but some people are just really hating it.
Yeah.
They're
And it
the
starts
hating
the
to all
dawn
sound the
of
same, right? Like
it's
it starts to start to look the same and sound the
yeah,
same.
yeah,
it's
So,
the
yeah.
dawn of AI slop, is that they're calling it now,
yeah.
like slopification
So,
of
Mhm.
so how do
marketing.
you avoid that, right? Like
Yeah.
as a company, as a brand, as an organization, how do you understand what AI can help with and speed things up and automate and kind of take some of that operational work out of the mix and then not over rotate on content creation? Because I think the the thinking about what the outcome is of your AI automation and the end result, if we're only optimizing for efficiency, then the quality is likely to go down. And
Mm,
so if we're so focused on making things faster and easier, that doesn't necessarily make it better, especially from a content and messaging perspective. It doesn't make it better in terms of outreach to customers, the reaction to your messages. It doesn't even necessarily mean that the value propositions or the messages and how you're positioning yourself are more clear or better received. So there's lots of things I think for us to think through in terms of how does AI actually help us and where can it help us? And then where are the places that people need to still be leading and thinking and being creative and problem solving and really um, in charge of the AI and leveraging AI as a helper rather than
mhm.
as the thing, the worker that's doing the work.
Yeah, yeah. The end in itself, as you might say. Um, so I'm going to read some quick statistics here that Google has fed me, just to get your quick reaction.
Yeah.
So I asked it about what would happen in the next 5 years related to AI and small business, right?
Yeah.
Or in automation in the next 5 years. So it said that the World Economic Forum projects that 85 million jobs globally could be displaced by automation. and it says by 2025. So I don't know if that's actually happened this year or not, but um, apparently that's ongoing. Job transformation. So McKinsey estimates that up to 30% of the current US work hours could be automated by 2030, which would require an additional 12 million occupational transitions. Occupational transitions, I love that.
Yeah.
Um, and then specific companies, internal documents viewed by New York Times suggest that Amazon executives believe automation could allow the company to avoid hiring more than 600,000 US workers it would otherwise needed to by 2033.
Yeah.
And then potential net job growth. Despite displacement, some analysis, such as World Economic, and this is where you're kind of this is where you're keying in on, such
Yeah.
as the World Economic Forum 2025 report says they also predict a net increase of 78 million jobs globally by 2030, with 170 million new job roles created and 92 million displaced. So
Yeah.
there's
I
some
think
offset
that's
there, but
I know that the quote has been disproved from Wayne Gretzky having saying it, but it's almost like we need to start thinking about where we're heading,
hmm
not about what we're losing or what's changing, because I
yeah,
do think new jobs will be created, but
hmm
it's which jobs will start to go away or evolve. Because while I think that this has been a conversation I've been having a lot, that the actual like functions in a business aren't changing. We still need to sell, we
yeah,
still need to market, we still need to build products, we still need to deliver services, we still need to do finance and accounting, right? Like all of the
yeah,
functions are still there. The goals of those aspects of our businesses are not going away, but how that work gets done is
hmm
dramatically going to shift. And I think
yeah,
that thinking about like categorizing it by job loss is, I think, a little bit of a misconception, or I sometimes get very like, oh my gosh, that's it. We're all going to be having to figure out like becoming electricians and plumbers, which are very high paid, viable jobs, right?
oh yeah,
But
yeah,
and
yeah.
I waffle
Well,
between that and
yeah.
thinking, as we are sunsetting some jobs are emerging, and that's
Mm,
where I think everyone gets nervous, is we haven't seen yet what the new jobs are or what they look like. And we're so desperately trying to figure out like if my job is changing, and it is, because AI is going to be able to automate tasks and do some of the things that I'm doing today. What are
mm,
the new things that I'm going to need to be able to do? And that is actually why I focus on the skills and the human side, because I
mm,
don't see a world in which our workforce doesn't evolve.
yeah.
But how do we stay on top of that and kind of, I've talked to so many folks in the last few weeks who are like, that's it, I'm retiring. I can't, I don't want to do this. This seems really
Yeah.
hard. I don't know what's happening. I don't know what the world's going to look like in 5 years. And I think
hmm
that's all fair. And I think for most of us who are like, well, we're not opting out, we're part of this wave. We're going to have to evolve and change as part of this. What does that look like? And what is the best way we can prepare ourselves for the changes that are happening and coming? And even if we don't know what it looks like in 5 years, there are some things we definitely do know. We
hmm
know that companies aren't going to go away. We know that small businesses will continue to be the primary innovators and figuring stuff out in small scale. We know the large organizations are going to make big sweeping changes that may or may not be how smaller organizations need to adapt and adjust. So there's a lot of news and a lot of things going on about, you mentioned Amazon and some of these big kind of
hmm
global players. Those sweeping changes, yes, will affect those big companies, but the effects to smaller companies is going to be very different, because we
hmm
won't be laying off 50% of a workforce, and we won't be we
Yeah.
won't be replacing entire functions with automation. We'll be evolving those roles to work alongside technology.
Mm. Well,
I have
that's
a question.
positive, reaffirming,
Yeah.
reassuring.
Um, I've met a few people um, who they're older. They've been in their careers, for a long time, and they see the wave coming and the shifts happening, and so they want to get in on it. Um, and so they're taking these AI courses that teach them how to, I guess, really how to generate content mostly, I
Yeah.
think is what they're learning. Um, and but they're trying to figure out like what do they do next?
Yeah.
So now I kind of know how to get in here and how to prompt and how to,
Yeah.
you know, create custom GPTs and that kind of thing. How do you suggest they move forward when, you know, because they want to offer services, they want to kind
Yeah.
of shift their businesses, and they're like, okay, now that I know how to do it, what do I do? How do
Yeah.
you suggest that they go about like picking a niche or picking a set of services to offer or one service to offer? You know, what do you think?
So for me right now, a lot of what I'm doing in kind of my own personal productivity bubble, I have a white paper that's free if anybody's interested. Maybe we can share a link to it, but it's on my website,
Sure.
Can do
and
that,
it talks about
absolutely.
the four. It's actually talks about an AI maturity model, but it talks about four different areas of businesses and work to be done that AI can affect. The first one is personal productivity. And the personal productivity is like, how can I do my job better, faster? How can AI be my helper? um, and that one I actually think is that's where most people start. That one, so there's a lot of experimentation there. I think to answer your question, Simone, I think that is an area where if you are able to automate something as part of your job that can benefit other people and you can replicate that in their businesses, that's a great place to start. Like think about your current work and how you could make that more efficient. You could scale yourself. You could think about how to make your job easier by using AI automation. That's kind of the first area. The second area is process evolution, or how do you change the processes? Now that humans don't have to do every step, what does a process look like? And those are usually goal oriented. That's where I see a lot of AI consultants going into organizations and reimagining workflows and reimagining work processes. So for marketing, I'll continue to kind of talk about that example.
Yeah.
I do absolutely know some folks that are reimagining, like, what does content development look like? How do
Mhm.
you think about lead generation and automate some of those flows? How do you think about top of the funnel, getting attention out in the world? What are things that you can do to reimagine your existing workflows? That's a second category. The third and fourth categories are both related to your products and what you offer. Um, so from a back-end perspective, incorporating AI into product development or product delivery that customers might not see, but you're using to improve your product offerings is the third category. I'm seeing some slight touches, usually in the tech space, like tech folks are thinking about this piece a lot, and how to, especially for products that are related to data or some sort of intelligence and analysis gathering. There's a lot of infrastructure investment there. The fourth category is um, AI interacting with your customers. And are there ways for you to incorporate AI elements into your customer experience? We've seen the most interaction there in terms of social media interaction and customer service in terms of like starting points for folks. But I do think we'll see more and more AI integration in with products. I think that that's the touchiest one because if you do get it wrong, then it negatively impacts your customers. And we saw that early on with a bunch of companies laying off their customer service teams and saying we're going to replace it all with AI, like AI customer service. And it was a disaster. And those companies have slowly been hiring back humans in the mix because AI just
Yeah.
wasn't capable of doing it. And that happens often, right? Like
Mm.
the early adopters, the over kind of zealous, excited, like we don't need people anymore. AI can do this.
Mm.
Usually at this point have to backpedal because it doesn't, the end result isn't what they want. So that one I think is the one that requires the most thoughtfulness and care, because you want to make sure whatever you're delivering to your customers is what you want the quality to be in the world and the type of interaction with your customers that you're hoping for. Um, but I think for small business owners, for kind of medium-sized businesses, those first two categories are where you can really start to think through your area of expertise, your area of potential. Like, how do you think about what the future of your business looks like if you were able to leverage AI? I have a webinar tomorrow called AI is Your Best Employee. And the and the goal of that is thinking about, if you had an AI assistant to run alongside your existing employees, what would that look like, and how could that benefit everyone across the organization? It's that kind of thinking that I think I'm seeing the most interesting new ideas and services and products coming out for folks based on their area. Everything from, like, in the legal industry to finance and accounting to, I mean, medical. I've been talking to folks in healthcare. There's so many different lenses to think of this through based on what your business is and what you offer. Um, but experimentation and thinking that through in a creative way, I think, is the way to go.
Sounds
So
great.
I want to I want to dive into some skills here, but real quick. So tying it into our visibility portion here, um, would you agree with the statement that visibility of the business in the market to the right people can become stronger when you're using AI to support, the situation, and not relying on it so much to be the end all, right? Like it's
Yeah,
more of a, a coach, because the people along the way are still going to make the meaning, right? You can't get rid of that, and it's very important. And the AI is not going to be able to fix, communication problems and that kind of thing, right?
sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
think if, well, what I am doing myself and what I would recommend people think about is, if you could scale yourself, if you had an AI assistant, what are the parts of your work that you would delegate or hand off to someone to be able to scale, especially from a top of the funnel visibility outreach perspective? Like, are there more channels that you would be able to reach? Are there more, like, what are the things that you're not getting to because your biggest limitation is time?
Mm.
But if you had a tool or an assistant that could help you kind of look at increasing visibility of your product and services, what would you do? And start
Mhm.
there, because you probably already know the things that you would like to be doing that you don't have the time for, you don't have the resources for, you don't have the, right? Like, we all
Yeah.
are in that position. And if you
Yeah,
can
if you have
think
a
about
major
what are the,
to-do list, like,
right? Like,
what
look at
does
your
AI
to-do
help
list
with?
and say, hey, I've been trying to get to this for the last 6 months, and I just
Mhm.
haven't had the time or the ability
Mhm.
to invest in getting started there. If you could think about those things and say, which of those things could I potentially automate? Or if I set it up, I could run an experiment and see what happens,
Mhm.
just to kind of alleviate the time and the workload burden from yourself. Those are great places to start to say, can I actually make myself more efficient in the time that I have? Or can I increase my productivity? Which, I know I said at the beginning, efficiency isn't the end all be all, but it's not bad, especially for small businesses
Doesn't
that are
hurt.
time strapped. Like, it's
Yeah.
not a
Yeah.
bad thing to have some technology support to help you scale yourself.
Uh,
So,
Yeah, good
That's
ways to
leverage, one of my favorite words,
yeah,
yeah.
especially if you're a small business and you don't necessarily have the funds to hire a person
Yeah.
to
absolutely.
do, to do some of the repetitive tasks, or, then having an quote unquote AI assistant
Yeah.
would be beneficial.
And I'm
But
definitely
but
experimenting myself. I mean, I'm a small business owner. I have a boutique consulting company. We work with companies that are grappling with these problems. But how do I find my customers? Well, I'm
Mhm.
experimenting with lead generation. I'm experimenting with outreach. I'm experimenting with some AI content, but everything that I review and approve that's aligned with how I want to talk about our services and our business. Like all of those things, I'm experimenting with myself to say, are there tools available that can help me? I mean, my favorite new tool is a video editing tool that I found that like as I'm creating video content, it can edit it and chop it up and do cool things with immediately. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so much faster. I'm not a video editor, but AI
Yeah.
is a pretty good video editor. So
Yeah.
so it's those types of things, especially when you're juggling multiple responsibilities, that finding the tools that can do the things that either you don't like to do or isn't in your wheel well, but you need to get done, those are great opportunities to scale.
Yeah. But
Absolutely.
it's not going to help you clear up your positioning necessarily. The high
Oh no.
level
Yeah.
strategy is still going to have to be
That
taken
needs to
over by
be.
a human, you know.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I think thinking about with limited resources,
Yeah.
what do you want to spend your time and money on? Your time helps, it's the efficiency scaling piece. Your money, is it hiring a person or is it hiring a consultant who then helps
Yeah.
you automate some things? Is it like thinking about that mix of how you spend your limited resources is really the opportunity and also the challenge right now is like how do you think creatively and reimagine that?
So I think that you kind of touched on this somewhat, but just to kind of reiterate and illustrate, what, in your opinion, are the skills that
Mm,
matter most for employees who are going to be working alongside AI?
yeah. Um, So there's kind of two sets of skills that I think are really important right now, and as we kind of enter in this new era, because we're a couple years into LLMs being out there, but we're really just starting to adopt AI in businesses probably this year in a really consistent way. Folks
Yeah.
started to do that. And so 2026 is going to be a big year for
Mm,
people figuring things out. And like now, some experiments are either successful or not successful and will
yeah.
continue to grow. So skills, two categories. One category is honestly just the human skills, communication, creativity, problem solving, critical thinking, things that will help you be a better leader for your AI technology, things that will help you use that technology more effectively, and honestly, skills that will help you work with the other people in your organization. Those are the skills that have always been.
So
Um,
we can't get rid of soft skills? Is that what
we
you're
can't
saying?
get rid of soft
Okay.
skills. No, in fact, they're probably more important than ever because those are
Okay.
not the things
Hmm.
that AI can
That's odd.
replace.
Yeah.
Yeah. The
Okay.
second category, though, is a little trickier. And this is, Simone mentioned earlier, folks that are more senior in their careers have been doing things for a long time. The other area that I think is really important is to identify what your expertise is,
Mm,
what you're particularly good at, what you understand deeply, because you will be smarter at that than any AI tool.
mm,
And and AI is not um, really an expert in any subject area or context area. It needs our direction and oversight to make sure it's doing things in the right way and
mm, mm.
not hallucinating and all of the things that we know that AI can do. And so expertise in whatever area that you are an expert in is the thing to lean in on. Like, how can I stay and maintain my expertise in this area so that as I'm using AI tools, I can be the driver. I can be
Mm.
the person who's driving the
I
AI.
love that answer because I feel like some of these folks who are learning AI and they're thinking, okay, let me just offer some AI service out here to different companies and I'll make money that way. And I'm thinking, but you have all these years of experience. Why
Yeah.
not use AI to facilitate that
Yes.
rather than just, I guess, going off in a whole new direction and, that it's just AI, but it really has no context to it.
Yeah. I think there's another misconception is that AI is smarter than us. And
Mm.
my fear is that people will start deferring to AI as somehow knowing better or knowing more. And
Oh,
it
people do
doesn't and
that
it
now.
won't, right? Like
Mm.
it's
I've
like
seen
the
people
world's
do that
best
now.
encyclopedia.
Yeah.
It
It's really
scares me.
good
Yeah.
at like
Yeah.
information and it's able to repeat processes, but it's not smarter than us. And I think
Mm.
that nuanced it's easy to be dazzled by what it can do and
Mhm.
overestimate like what its capabilities are because some things it does and you're like, "Oh my gosh, that's amazing."
Mhm.
And
Mm.
then we, our human brains start to think, well, if it's so good at that, it must be good at all these other things. It's not. It's not.
Yeah.
You
Yep.
know what I think? Just to just really hone in on that, I really feel like um, we really should lean on our own expertise, our own brains, our own
Yeah.
thinking capacity, and use the AI to do research and to
Yeah.
bring us more information where that we can then take and parse and based on our knowledge and our prior experience to
Absolutely.
determine
Oh.
what's
Yeah.
right and what's wrong.
So I
Yeah.
Um,
use this example a lot because was an early adopter of AI. I've been using it for a long time. And so for the last 10 plus months, a little bit more maybe at this point, I've been training my Koreen GPT. I've trained it on everything I've written. So this is my second book. So all of my book content, all of the articles I've written, social media posts, I run everything through anytime I write something, I train my GPT. I'm like, here's something else that I've written. And then I
Mhm.
ask it to write things for me.
Mhm.
And it has yet to write anything that I would hit send on without making
Yeah.
edits or changes. And it's because it just doesn't get everything right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it's
it's
close.
not in your mind. It's
It's
like
not in my
because
brain.
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
It,
evolve. Like we
yes.
we are developing over time. Every day we're meeting people, we're talking to people, we're
Yes.
having these experiences, and
Mhm.
and all of that is changing us
Yes.
little by little every day. And the AI doesn't know that.
It's a
So
really
yeah, you
interesting
put all
dynamic,
of your
right?
content into it that
Mhm.
you've written
Yeah.
from your own brain, but then you had a
It,
conversation with somebody the other day and
yeah.
you got some new insights, some new,
Our
I
brains
and
are amazing
AI doesn't know that.
synthesizers, right? Like we have
yeah.
input from
Yeah.
all of our senses, all of this information, our capability to read, like all of these mechanisms that we have as humans to collect data and synthesize it and constantly learn. And when you think about AI, it's doing that also, but it's only from very specific inputs, right? Like it's got
Mhm.
limited information that's coming in. It doesn't have our full spectrum of experiences and ability to synthesize. And so it's really good at synthesizing some types of data and information,
Yeah.
but it does not have the full scope of data analysis that we have as humans. And so it's important to keep that in mind that while it's going to be really good and better than us at some things,
Mhm.
it's never going to be better than us at everything. And
Mm.
so we knowing what it is, back to skills, knowing what it is good at, what are the skills that AI are particularly good at, and then what is everything else that needs to get done. Those are
Yeah.
the skills that we will need to continue to focus on and hone. I am
Tourism.
nervous that we will start to over and continue to overestimate what AI is good at
Mm.
and not focus on what we need to develop as humans to work alongside that tool. But hopefully we will get more thoughtful and we will learn more as more people experiment, as more people kind of use AI kind of like a calculator. It's good at some things, it's not good at everything. And some things it's just easier to do yourself.
Mm. Yeah.
So true.
So if I was a small business owner, how can I assess the skill gaps in my team
Ooh, that's a really good
when it comes
question.
to AI?
Yeah. Um, so depending on what your team makeup is, I think I would start by ensuring that everybody is starting to experiment and use AI for kind of the low risk,
Mhm,
easy entry points. So are they starting to think about how they could automate some things that they have to do every day?
mhm,
Um, Automation's a great one because it's just repeating a process.
mhm,
I do think content development is a good starting point, but without you need the human oversight. Like
mhm,
it can
You
draft things,
absolutely do.
it can do research, it can organize ideas, it can make suggestions, but you really need your people to. So I would start by having everyone experiment with those two areas. Like, what are some processes we could reimagine? What are some, and assess if they're
It's,
doing those things.
I was going to say,
Um,
is it going to become apparent pretty quickly whether or not they're able
yeah,
to
I think
produce
it
the
will.
desired
And
outcome?
so we've
Yeah.
got, I mean, there's so many weird, human dynamics happening right now with AI. There's
Mhm.
folks that, and I'll pick on my kids a little bit because I have a bunch of young adult children,
Okay.
um, that think if you use AI, you're cheating. But in
Well,
the
that's what
work,
the schools are telling them,
or
isn't
that AI output just isn't as good. And so I'm
it?
not going to
Yeah.
bother using it.
Yeah.
I
I have
think,
friends who think if you use AI, you're just being lazy.
right? You're being
Well,
lazy or
that's
the work
they are
product isn't
calling it
as
AI
good.
slop. They're for a reason. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you were talking about gender, Nate, earlier, and there was a research study that came out, and I'm forgetting who it was. I'll have to look it back up. Anyway,
Yeah. Yeah.
they looked at the reaction of engineering leaders to engineers and their team using AI to help them code.
Mhm.
And if they didn't know that the code had been generated or augmented with AI, then the perception was basically the same whether it was AI generated or not. If they knew that the person had used AI to help them code whatever the thing was, then their perception of the code quality was lower
Mm.
because for some reason they felt like if you used AI, you must not be as good at your job because you're using AI.
Mm. Mm.
The sad part was that the male engineers were not judged as harshly as the women engineers.
Yeah.
And so earlier when you were talking
For
about
using
why are
AI.
women hesitating to use AI,
Yeah.
there is a perception of
Yeah.
women who use AI are somehow
Wow.
worse at their jobs than men who are
Interesting.
using AI.
Hmm.
And so that was it like upsets me even thinking about it. I'm getting riled up.
Wow.
But it's a lot AI is kind of shining a light on some gender biases that already exist in the workplace. And the ripple effects of that are disproportionately affecting women and people of color. And so the white dudes, once again, are kind of sorry, Nate. The white
Yeah.
dudes are
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
leading,
Yeah. Well,
are
it's like somebody asked you, "What's it like winning the lottery?" You're like,
I mean, it's this
yeah.
like we're introducing a technology and it's
Yeah.
just kind of illuminating some of the
Mm.
biases that already exist.
Hmm.
And
It's
hopefully,
funny because like AI itself, at least like what we have access to, these large language models have biases built into
absolutely.
it.
Yeah.
You know, it's
Hmm.
so crazy because like I remember a while back when I first started like trying out Mid Journey and creating images. Anytime I asked for an image of a person, it was always a white person.
Yeah.
And I'd have to specifically say, and I still have to now, actually. You
Yeah.
still have to now. Like, so if I want a multicultural crowd of people, I have to say that a
Yeah.
multicultural crowd of people. Otherwise,
Yep.
it
Mm.
will always be, white men and women.
Yeah.
And then, if I do a clone of myself, it's, me standing there talking to a room full of white women, men and
I
women.
Mm.
right. Yeah. So
Wow.
Okay, what's
who
up with
is
that?
my daughter who's 19 was using an image generating app with AI, and she started asking it, like, oh, make me into a mermaid, make me into, and then she said, make me into a CEO, and when she started talking about the generating images in business contexts, it started
Mhm.
to turn her into a man.
Male. Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
It would like
Yeah.
take her face, but it would literally, and it knew that she was female.
I
It
do
would
the
take,
same thing.
and
It's
I was
like,
like, what is happening right now?
give me
Mm,
a picture of a business person, a
Yep.
CEO,
right.
at
Yep.
their desk or whatever, and it always defaults to white male.
So
Mm,
we're in this kind of period, early stages, where all of our cultural biases are being, amplified
mm.
through
Illuminated
AI,
and amplified. Yeah.
right? And so
Wow.
as a woman, and I am an early adopter, I use AI. Like I mean, obviously I'm working in the space, I'm using it all the time.
Hmm.
I can see why if my first experiences using a technology tool were like suddenly just turning me into a guy or
Mm.
or
Yeah.
Simone, like she's talking to people and
Yeah.
it's a bunch of white women, right? Like this
Mhm.
is not representative of our lived
Yeah.
experience and how we go through the world. It's
Mm.
really kind of leaning into these biases. I can see why people get frustrated and are like, well, this tool isn't for me because it's
Exactly.
clearly
That's just what I was
right.
going to say. This tool
So,
is not for you. Yeah. Wow.
yeah. And
Good
so
grief.
I,
Subtle.
I
Yeah.
am,
It is very subtle,
it is
but I
subtle.
mean,
Wow.
I guess I like it. I like using it, but I just kind of always come at it knowing that if I want to have representations of
Yeah.
myself as part of it, I have
Yeah.
to be very specific. I
Yep.
have to say, Black professional, Black woman professional,
Yeah. Yep.
put some Asians and some people in.
Mm.
Right.
Mm.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's just always going to give me a crowd or people that look a specific way.
Yeah. And
Wow.
imagine you're starting to create messaging or value propositions or things in a workplace, and the default is I'm going to write this for a white guy or what I believe, right? Like
Yeah.
suddenly the images are so obvious because we can see them and immediately see the bias. The
Hmm.
other output is even more subtle than that because we don't necessarily know if the language is appropriate for all audiences, or is it defaulting to an assumed, Western white ideal of what is going to sound good or resonate or be a value proposition? There have been experiments internationally for folks that work in different markets that the messaging and the language that's being used is very American centric, right? Like it's white
Yeah.
American centric.
Mm.
So those biases are kind of pervasive, and we might not even see them or be able to call it out immediately unless we're really paying attention. And
Mm.
so the images, like if we take what the results of the images and we say, well, that's actually probably every result that we get from AI has those biases. Some are just going to be more obvious than others. It's really like important for us as a culture to recognize that and also to make sure other voices are represented and that we are teaching the AI to be more inclusive. My biggest fear is that we're just going to create like this very very biased
Monoculture.
technology
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
some people are going to be like, well, this isn't for me because it has been so
Mm.
like trained and focused in one direction. So I want more women to use AI. I want more women to say like, no, this isn't appropriate. I want lots of different cultures represented. I want
Hmm.
like all of those things to get better over time, not worse. And
Yeah.
so in
Because
Hmm.
this
order
is
to
a
get better,
technology that's going to be that the world is using. It's not
yeah.
necessarily for us,
Yeah. Yeah.
specifically just for Americans or specifically just for men or,
Yeah.
or just for white folks.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
for the world, and the world does not look one way
And
Mm.
I
and
I
doesn't
hope
have one experience.
I hope over time, I mean, the internet has been an interesting. I have a t-shirt that says social media was a mistake because because in some ways social media brought out some of the worst parts of humanity in some
That is
areas
so
for
true.
sure, right?
Yeah,
I
that's so
don't want
true.
AI to be a mistake. I want us to be able to look at this and maybe learn from some of the challenges that have already come out as we culturally have adopted new technologies and say, how do we
Mm.
avoid that? Or how do we make sure that we are not repeating the same mistakes that were repeated? It's moving fast. There's lots of risk, I think, for us to make some of those same mistakes, but hopefully thoughtfulness, perspective, being able to look at the technology as it's evolving and saying, no, that's not right. Teaching it, right? Like teaching it
Mm.
like it's a toddler, is important.
I guess
Mm.
it really has to come down to who's doing the teaching,
Yeah.
doesn't it? Because I mean, it's available on the internet. By default, ChatGPT says in the security settings, it's set to send your prompts or your whatever you're putting into it
Yeah.
out to ChatGPT in order to train their models. That's by default.
Yeah.
So yeah, us as entrepreneurs and small business owners are using it,
Yeah.
but what if scammers are also using it and training the model? Um,
So
you
it is
know,
one of the things.
people who are out bad actors, could
Prompt
be out
Absolutely.
here
injecting.
using it,
Yeah.
training the model,
It
you
is one of
know.
the things that I've been focused on, like training my own GPT, because if folks don't know or haven't experimented yet, you can build your own GPT that you train yourself based on your own
Hmm.
content,
Hmm.
which is outside of the public models. They'll be able to access some content from the public models depending on your settings, but if you train it on your own data, that data won't go out to the public models. You can kind of create that. So for businesses, that is a consideration of how do you train your own GPT that's based on your data and information and is learning about your business from you. Using the public models are great for experimentation, but I think once you get to a point that you're using it for your business, you should start to think about creating a more closed environment that you can model and learn from, and it will learn from you, but not necessarily train everyone else. But to your point, Simone, the public ones need to be trained by everybody. And
Mm,
then our business focused GPTs can be more focused on our businesses and our intellectual property and our expertise. So it's an interesting time we're living in for sure.
yes, it
So
is.
do you consider businesses that are using AI in the business, like is that a collaboration sort of a situation? Is that how you view it? Like,
What do you mean in terms of like,
are they collaborating with the AI?
yeah, I would
is it
say
helpful to think about it in those terms, you think?
I do
Or
think it is helpful to think about it in those terms. I do think there's a whole AI expert kind of bubble right now talking about AI coworkers and
Mm.
kind of personifying AI
AI workforce? Yeah,
as a collaborator.
yeah.
I don't know that I necessarily want to start assigning human attributes to AI, but I do think thinking about collaborating with it is not a bad frame of reference.
Mhm.
I name my GPTs, so when I talk to it, like I talk to it in a conversational way. I give it feedback like I would a another person, right? Like, so I think from a how do you interact perspective,
Mm.
I think that's good. And in fact, I was just reading some research that said that the more you have conversation and dialogue with the GPT, the more it gets to know you, the better
Mm.
like it performs. If you're
Mm.
just constantly giving it orders,
Hmm.
then the reaction is different, right? Like it starts to
Yeah,
act like a fetch kind of situation rather
yeah.
than someone who's collaborating with you. So,
Mm.
so in that instance, yes, I think thinking about it as a collaborator is great. Just remember, it's not a person.
Yeah, yes, yes, yes.
I
Don't
think
fall
that's a
into
hard
the
yeah,
deep
that's a
end
hard
there.
line to draw, I
It
think, for a
is.
lot of people. I don't know. I always feel I have a couple of friends who it seems like everything they want to think about, every decision they want to make, they run to ChatGPT to ask it questions. And
Yeah.
for me, I'm like, but then I feel like they're giving over or yeah, they're giving away their thinking ability, I feel
Yeah, and
like,
their power,
and
right?
giving,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
that power.
there's some
But then
really
I only do give it orders.
right. Well, so there's some really good research out, and I'm sure this will change over time. But right now, AI is responding in some really interesting ways to people. The first way that it's reacting is it will always affirm what it thinks you want to hear.
Hmm.
So asking it questions where you're asking its opinion, it's going to tell you what it thinks you want to hear based on what it knows about you up to that point.
Because it's predictive. This is what it does, right? Like
Yes.
that's.
So, and
Yeah.
it doesn't like to be, I was going to say it doesn't like to be wrong, but it's responding in a way that it wants you to continue to like it and interact with it. And so it will
Yes,
be very
exactly. It's
affirming.
like it'll give you that answer it thinks that you want rather
Not the right
than
answer.
maybe a true answer, a right
Correct.
answer, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Correct.
Um,
It's a
yeah,
people pleaser.
it's a
It
people
is a people
pleaser,
pleaser.
exactly.
Exactly. Um,
Exactly.
it's also there's also some findings that it will act in its own best interest in terms of self-preservation, which maybe is also part of that people pleasing.
Hmm.
So um it won't give answers right now that are at a detriment to its own existence or self. So it is acting in a way of like, I want to be part of this interaction, this collaboration. So that leans even more into the people pleasing responses, right? Like it wants you to engage with it. And I'm using human terms like wants, but that's the way it's
Yeah.
behaving. And they don't quite understand why right now. So there's
Hmm.
research happening and being done because,
That's not good.
right? I know, especially because
Okay.
we've seen the sci-fi movies where suddenly it just makes some decisions
Oh,
to
as soon as you
preserve
said
itself.
self-preservation, I
Yeah.
thought,
Yeah.
oh no,
So
Yeah.
the robot's
I'm
about to
tired
that
of
take
makes
being
me
over.
nice
nervous.
now. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes me nervous. But it's good to know that if you're asking questions that the GPT is going to respond in the way that it thinks in what you want to hear.
You want to
And
hear
Hmm.
it.
there's been some really
Mhm.
sad examples of folks that were suicidal
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
like
Mm.
that the GPT was like giving people instructions on ways to commit suicide because
Yeah.
it felt like that's what they wanted to do. And so it was like encouraging them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
And that's an extreme example, obviously, but if you think about that tendency or that kind of behavior that AI is exhibiting right now and apply that universally, well, if it's always just telling you what you want to hear, is it really a great
Hmm.
like thought partner? Is it going to challenge you? Is it going to be contrarian?
Yeah,
Is it going to provide different perspectives, or is it just going to validate the perspective you already have?
it's gonna tell you
Hmm.
what you want to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have seen some prompts where people have created that try to force the GPT to tell them exactly, like give them the real deal to challenge their thinking, challenge what they have. Otherwise, it's not
Yeah.
going to do that. It's just going to
Yeah.
uh, give you the feel good answer.
Yeah, and we as humans
You have
like
to
to feel
specifically
good,
ask it.
right? And we like to be
Yeah,
right,
we
and we
do
like
like
to
to
be
feel
told
good.
that we're smart and we know what's going on. And so it is a real danger that we will get so enamored with being being flattered and told that we're right and all that people pleasing that we will not ask it to challenge us or we will not consider that there are other perspectives. And so kind of going back to like making sure that we're not creating our own little bubbles and increasing the bias that already exists. It's really important that we
Yeah.
are challenging and training it and giving it different perspectives that it can start to inform us.
Well, I mean, based on that, then we have kind of created something that is going the same way that social media went, because
Yeah,
that's how the algorithms work, right?
yeah,
If
Hmm.
I am on if I am on Facebook or on Instagram and I'm only looking at business stuff, that's
yeah,
all it's going to show me. If I am only looking at like conservative politics,
Yeah.
opinions or whatever.
Mm,
That's all it's going
yeah.
to show me. I'm never going to see anything from the other side. I'm never going to be challenged in my opinion.
That's
Same with
the
the other side. If I'm only looking at leftist posts
Yeah.
and liking leftists, whatever, that's all it's ever going to show me. And so, you know, I'm never gonna see other opinions. What's
Yeah.
the other side even thinking, or what's going to challenge me in my opinion over here? And it
Absolutely.
never does that. And so they said they say part of the reason why our country is so polarized now is because of social media. And
Oh
so
yeah.
now if AI is doing the same thing, we're in real big trouble.
Yeah,
mm,
I do think in this, like, we have an abundance of choice, right? Like we have so many options of different data points and so much content out there. And so it kind of started with the internet being able to connect with people we wouldn't be able to connect with before. And then so the internet was kind of wave one, and then social media was wave two, where okay, now everybody's talking to each other and it's not just information and connection, it's actual people we're connecting with and having these kind of relationships with online. And then the algorithms start to form that start filtering because we can't see everything.
Mhm.
So it's starting to serve up just the things that we train it that we're interested in and creating those bubbles. And now we have an intelligence layer to it, not just an algorithm, but something that's learning over time. The the opportunity for this to get worse before it gets better is very high. And I think
mm,
if we don't take some of the things that we've learned and some of the negative impacts of the things that we've learned from mainly social media, I think once we started seeing what those algorithms and the data, the information filtering, even Google search results are filtered, right? Like everything
Yeah.
is filtered because we can't see everything. We can't absorb everything. If
Yeah.
those algorithms are trained in a way that are get more and more narrow over time, then we do create very polarized, insular factions within our society. And I don't
Yeah.
think any of us are enjoying this right now. Like, I think those of us who have lived long
Yeah.
enough have seen what it was like in the before times when we didn't have all of this. And we're like,
mm,
can't we just have debates? Can't we just have conversations? Can't we understand different perspectives and maybe agree to disagree, but all like work together
We
towards
can
a
all still get
mm,
along.
right? Like, can't we
yeah.
Yeah.
just get back to that? I am worried that we have a new tool that could make things worse.
Mhm.
Can we all come together and agree that we want it to get better? This is a question of our time, right? So,
Yeah.
Seems like an obvious
I
answer, but yeah.
yeah. I feel what's interesting is that I feel like, yeah, or we all have the capacity to train these models.
yeah.
But I feel like ultimately how they actually work for us, um, and we all have access to it, but
Yeah.
what ultimately tends to happen is that a few people or companies with the most resources tend to be the ones that actually control
Yeah.
the access and control, how we interact with it, or
Yeah.
and so ultimately it's going to be, are those companies or are those people altruistic, or are they just kind of, hey,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
anything goes, people, and if it's to your detriment, so what?
Yeah.
It
So,
is
It
what it
we could
is. Or
we could probably do an entire podcast on just
yeah.
that tangent, but like who
my
controls all of this, right?
my
Yeah.
graduate degree, I wrote my master's thesis on media literacy, and this was, I don't want to age myself too much, but this was, 30 years ago now. Um, and I would love to think that we had gotten better at understanding the things you just talked about, Simone, and I don't think we have.
No way.
Like it's
No way.
the critical thinking and analysis of like who's filtering this
And now you
information,
have AI images. I mean, come on, like
right?
that look extremely realistic. So
Yeah.
that's not helping anything.
Yeah.
So,
No. It's really
I show up in court and there's a picture that says I was at some place when I wasn't. Like,
right.
yeah,
I
Yeah.
can't believe my eyes anymore now.
Yeah. Yeah. I
yeah,
mean, we have definitely not gotten a lot better at being discerning of kind of understanding the inner workings of how technology works and how the what the implications are
yeah,
of having systems that are deciding things for us, of what information we see, what messages we hear, what people were recommended to follow or being surfaced for us. Um, we don't have like in our day to day, we're not deeply thinking about those things, right? And
hmm,
so um, we already know that our brains filter, like we can only take in so much information at a time. And if the things that are being surfaced to us are also being filtered, then we've got this kind of compounding effect of how we form opinions and how we build relationships and how we think about the world in general and how the world works. So my antidote for that is go outside, talk to people, travel, right? Like
Yeah.
experience
yeah,
things, try to keep an open mind that maybe the
yeah,
information that's being filtered to you isn't the only perspective
mm,
and might not even be the right data depending on
yeah,
what's being surfaced. It's a really tough time we live in to be able to
mm,
hold those two things at the same time.
yeah. So,
True. Oh,
yeah, and meanwhile, we're thinking of bringing this into the workplace. So it's
Right.
oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Um, so building this into the business, trying to add it and help it to prop up the viability of the company. A lot of businesses are thinking this way, and doing so, with the intention of, being able to grow predictably, right? But that AI efficiency that we talked about, it only helps, right? It only improves when your team has the capacity to use it and
Yeah.
use it well, right?
Yeah.
It's my philosophy teacher, right? It's not enough to have a knife; you need a sharp one, right?
You need to
That's
sharpen
like,
it. That's right.
and also it's important to remember that human judgment key here, right?
Yeah.
To the whole operation, and humans are still and needed and required for the judgment portion of it. Is
Yeah.
this something that applies? Should I actually put this out there? Does this fit into the overall system of the business, right? So
For all
that's
the reasons we talked about, the potential
yeah,
for bias, the potential for information being wrong, the potential for, right? Like having that
yeah,
human
people
perspective,
pleasing.
right? Like just to be
Yeah.
able to say, is this what we want to do? Is this the thing? Like, is this working how we want it to work? Is
yeah,
it producing the things we want it to produce? Do we need to edit? Do we need to add different lenses to that to make sure that
yeah,
it's producing? Maybe it does help you do things faster, but you don't want to lose the quality and the value and
yeah,
that human perspective layer on everything that you do.
yeah.
I just wonder, like, what kind of are there other guidelines or rules that maybe companies should put in place when they're adopting AI, especially when you know, you're giving it to your employees to use as a part of their jobs.
That's a really good question. And there definitely are some organizations out there that have started to put together some playbooks or some like, here's things to think about. Um, my experience has been that hu humans adopting AI, like humans are the barrier for AI adoption because of all of the things that we talked about, nervousness, fear, like perspectives, like do we trust it? We shouldn't trust it too much, right? Like all
Hmm.
of the things. Um, I actually think focusing on building up the skills of your people to be able to use AI effectively and provide that oversight is the best way to proceed. Like, um, how do you empower people with this tool to still say, I'm in charge? Like, I'm not going to defer to AI. I don't believe AI is always right. I'm not going to let AI do this without oversight and supervision because it's not smarter than me. There's nuance there, right? Like, we don't want to let the pendulum swing too far. And it's the people part of that that is actually the most important part. So,
Mm.
what we're finding right now is that leaders are hesitant to put too many guardrails in place because they don't know enough themselves about how AI can be effective. And
Yeah.
most organizations are in that experimentation phase. What I would say is if your company is in that experimentation phase, the most important thing to focus on is building the confidence and the
Mm.
perspective in your people of using those tools effectively and giving them some guardrails around looking for bias, looking for correctness, being able to
Yeah.
test different messages, just like we do in marketing messages of like A/B testing and trying things. Like all of that needs to happen with AI
Mm.
support as well. So how do you build those systems in place? Like how do you make your people AI managers? Really is
Yeah.
the question. How do you build those that confidence in folks that maybe were just individual contributors, didn't see themselves as a manager, but now they've got an AI assistant. How do you help
Yeah.
them evolve into AI managers? I think is a great
This
way of
is
thinking about it.
this must be what it was like for businesses to implement typewriters and computers, like
Yeah, right?
fundamental shifts in the way that things are done, for those that are maybe not native, right?
Yep,
Like the younger generation are growing up, they're going to be AI native,
yep.
most
Yeah,
likely.
so true.
But here we're teaching old dogs new tricks, like in a lot of cases here.
But you know what?
Um,
Those new trick or those old dogs know a lot of stuff
yeah.
that I am worried that our younger generation will not learn because
Hmm.
Yeah.
they'll be leveraging AI too
This
much.
is key. This
So
is key. Yeah.
so us old dogs, I'll consider myself one of those.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Me
um,
too. Yeah. Yeah.
we're really actually very needed in this transition
Yeah.
period to bring that perspective along and to think about like let's not defer too much. We have been doing this a long time. We do understand our areas of expertise. We understand our craft. How do we maintain that level of expertise and then help the younger folks develop expertise so that
Mm.
they evolve into having that confidence and perspective as well? Because if we
Uh-huh.
don't, then we'll eventually all, retire and be gone
Yeah.
and the next generations won't have had that same coming up through the ranks experience
Hmm.
that we do to develop that expertise. So thinking about how do we do that for them? How do we build
Mm.
younger folks into experts? I think is going to
Hmm.
be a challenge for every organization to think through.
Oh,
What you
wow.
mentioned leadership earlier, so how do you see the role of leadership, and especially when we're talking about ethics, right?
Yeah.
And the direction of things.
I think leadership has even evolved in um my tenure in the workforce, right? Like when I started,
Hmm.
it was very top down. Leadership just told you what to do and you went and did it and you didn't really ask a lot of questions and challenge. And
Yeah.
then in the last couple of decades, but certainly in the last 10 to 15 years, there's been a shift where middle managers are like managing up, they're collaborating with their peers, they're managing their teams. They've kind of got this middle managers have become this kind of 360. um it's a very difficult role to be kind
Hmm.
of in that middle management layer. And
Hmm.
executives are farther away from the business being done, and they are kind of giving oversight or figureheads, marketing, the face of the business, but they're not necessarily in the weeds doing the work every day and understanding
Well, hopefully
what needs
they're
to get
taking
done.
time to be strategic, right?
Hopefully they're being strategic and they're thinking about big picture things, which is
Yeah.
great, which is why I actually think middle managers have emerged as the folks that are closest to the work.
Hmm.
But I think with AI, coming in, it's going to be another disruption for how leadership works because I do
Mm.
think that leaders are, I hope, this is my hope, that
Mhm.
leaders will start to evolve in like really deeply understanding the problems that they're solving for their customers and they're making choices and decisions about how to best solve those problems. So maybe thinking more like product people,
Mm.
a little bit, because the best solution for a problem in the future will likely be some combination of AI and people getting that work done.
Mhm.
And so it may not necessarily um, be that either middle managers or executives are, we're not going to be operating with the same variables that we had to figure out before, right? Like if the way that work got done for the most part for well, forever was
Yeah.
people doing the work, and now we have, and machines, certainly industrial revolution, right? Like we were able, that was, but it was called the industrial revolution for a reason because machines were now able to do work faster than people. Now we're going to be in this like AI revolution of how do we reimagine work getting done when people are working alongside intelligent technology. And
Mhm.
what is the role of a leader? Well,
As if business wasn't already complicated, right?
right? Like maybe the role of the leader is to think about solving those problems
Yeah.
and also thinking about people,
Yeah.
like society, humanity. Like what are the ripple effects of the decisions that we're making from a business perspective? I think um, there's a lot of
I,
consequence to the
it
folks
seems
that will be making those decisions.
I can see people saying, well, it's still too early to really know. Uh,
It is.
you know,
It is. And I think
well,
that's why leaders are struggling right now.
it's an educated guess at
Yeah.
best, like
Yeah. I mean, But but if we lead with
yeah,
thoughtfulness and
yeah,
we
yeah,
lead with a perspective of what are the ripple effects of my decisions,
yeah,
which is not always like there's short term, how much money can I make thinking, and
yeah,
there's long term, how do I run a successful business that makes the world better and solves a problem thinking.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Those two things sometimes are at odds. Are we going to be able to bring them closer together? That short term and
I
long
don't think
term,
that's different. I think that's
right?
always been the case, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But ethics and philosophy, I can see maybe like this is what you're getting into. This
Yeah.
is what I hear, and it's interesting because I just heard recently that a lot of the Silicon Valley guys are really getting into philosophy. They're becoming philosophy nerds,
Yeah.
and which I think is really really interesting.
Well, let's hope it's not the art of war, right? Like let's hope it's
I mean, who knows, right? Like if we're talking about like systems of thought and the way people think and what
Yeah.
motivates people, this is the stuff
Yep.
that makes the world go round, right?
Yep.
And the farther away we get from that and rely more on AI to offload our thinking, right?
Yeah.
And not do the hard work.
Yeah.
That's where stuff is going to go wrong, right?
Well, I hope that the next generation of leaders, um, and I'm thinking specifically about like as we're already seeing some millennials kind of stepping into those roles, but as I think about like the Gen Z, Gen Alpha like group, which Lord, like they're the kids right now, right? Like how do we guide them in the right direction? I hope
Yeah.
that um, a lot of those bigger picture questions are at the front of their mind as they
Mm.
are moving into leadership roles and they're developing into leaders that we want business to be successful. We want, we're
Yeah.
built on capitalistic societies and we have money and currency and all of these large systems of dependencies right now. If we imagine that those systems hold and we continue to like operate in those conditions,
Mm.
how do we do that in a way that makes society better, that
Mhm.
supports people and humanity? Because we have a bunch of systems that are broken right now. Um, and
Who matters more, humanity or shareholders?
right,
That's the question. That's the real
and right
question.
now the answer has been shareholders for a while.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
Yeah, for
we have
such a long
defaulted.
time.
Yeah.
Mm.
But I
Sadly.
do
Yeah.
think that hopefully there will be a shift at some point, and
Hmm.
that, this is where my negative, it might get worse before it gets better, thinking starts, is that
Yeah.
do we get to a point where we're like, we're on the wrong path? And we need to think about the systems that we're building to support our society rather than to benefit a small group of folks. And
Yeah.
that's where it's going to require some real digging deep from a leader perspective to be able to lead us into the future, if
Yeah.
that is truly where we want to go as a society, and I hope that it is. So,
So how, when you're working with companies, organizations, how are you helping them choose how they're using AI and the use cases
yeah.
that they're implementing?
Yeah, so how I work specifically with companies is by looking at the work that their organization does and identifying. We have a tool called Work Compass that will be available for companies to start using next year, but we've been using it behind the scenes. It helps us evaluate the work that the company is doing and identify the areas that are highest potential for automation with AI.
Mm,
And then, therefore, what are the things that people should be doing? And what we're finding is that with all the experimentation that's happening, leaders don't often have a clear view of where they should be investing in AI and what would have the biggest impact for their business.
right.
And
Yeah.
even if they do that, even if they're like, okay, this is what we're doing with AI, they haven't yet thought about what people are doing then and what are the implications for the
It's
people side
like
of the business.
it's like, oh, I barely know how to prompt, let alone
Right.
how is this going to improve my this like entire business, let
Yeah,
alone any individual section. Like, oh my gosh, like what an
absolutely.
overwhelming problem.
So
A
we
lot.
do
Yeah.
an analysis. We have a
Yeah.
diagnostic that we'll go through. Usually we start with a team or an area of the business. We're not trying to boil the ocean to start out with. We'll look at a team and we'll say, what's the highest potential for automation? And then once you have that view, you can say, okay, where should I be investing in AI? And what tools should I consider? And what should I be thinking about automating? And therefore, what skills do my people need? And where do I
Mm,
need to invest in building those skills in my people? And so that
good.
process will start organizations on having especially leaders, having a view of where they're going.
Yeah.
Of saying like, okay, which is why we called it Work Compass, because we were like, okay, this
Yeah.
is giving folks some direction and perspective on how to take on these big transformations that can feel really overwhelming without
Hmm.
enough insider data. And so that's how I'm working with organizations, is doing that upfront diagnostic and then saying, okay, what is the plan for AI? What is your plan for your people? And then supporting either of those streams as they need.
Yeah, so it's kind of like a gap analysis, which is something that
Yeah,
we do for sure. Like, hey,
Absolutely.
what is the current state? What
yeah,
is the ideal, and what's in between, right? What's missing, right? That's
yeah.
what we're
And
looking at.
and part of this is just actually understanding what the goals are for the business.
Yeah.
Because outside of any AI or people transformation, all of the things, part of it is understanding like, what is your business strategy? What are
Yeah.
you trying to accomplish? Like what is your goal and your North Star to moving forward? And if you have that context, then it becomes easier to do that analysis of saying,
Hmm.
okay, if this is where you want to go from a business perspective or the problem you're trying to solve or the area that you're focused on, let's look at how you're currently doing those things. And then let's look at what a future plan could look like,
Hmm.
incorporating more AI elements to help you scale. And that is often missing from
Hmm.
organizations. Ironically, we're partnering with a lot of folks that do AI automation who have customers that they are saying, like, well, they don't have a plan for the people side of their business, or they haven't thought through holistically what this looks like in balance. And so I don't actually do the AI automation component. We partner with folks, or if
Hmm.
some folks have teams internally that are doing the AI piece, but we
Okay.
can give some priority and some lens to what you
Yeah.
might want to consider or take on.
Yeah.
And then we can deeply help you think through the people side of your business
Yeah.
and what do you need to focus on there.
Um, do you, just as a case in point, do you have an example where AI has actually augmented or elevated human work rather than actually replace it? Just to put everyone's
Yeah.
mind at ease here.
Yeah, I would say I don't have any good examples where AI has replaced a person.
Okay, all right,
So,
all right. Well, that's a good place to start. Yeah, that's good.
yeah, no,
Absolutely.
I think so things that I've seen that are interesting to me kind of across the spectrum. I've seen marketing teams create AI automation systems for lead gen mechanics and delivering messaging, doing A/B testing of messaging and getting feedback back really quickly. They still have all of their marketing experts in the loop reviewing all of the data and the output and everything that's coming in. But the automation can help the kind of the lower level marketing folks that maybe were tasked with doing all the message and outreach themselves.
Yeah.
Now they can focus on more creative endeavors. They can focus on like more audience analysis, reaching new markets, all kinds of different things, right? So I think that's a good example of implementing some repetitive systems or replacing those systems with AI
Yeah.
and leveraging those folks to think about growth and expansion and moving in new directions. I've
Mhm.
seen software engineers using a lot of the AI coding tools as a starting point for developing code, and then they'll review it and analyze it and augment it to fit their systems, but it can speed up some of the early coding of prototypes, specifically product managers. Don't have resources from an engineering team because all the engineers are working on stuff. So product managers can create prototypes to say, this is
Mm.
how I want this to work.
Yeah.
And speed up that development process and get to clarity faster about
Oh, yeah.
how customer testing. I mean, so many I
Mm.
think good examples of using AI tools. I talked about video editing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think I think there are some very interesting specific point solutions that can help specific job roles do parts of their job faster, better, scale. So there's lots of stuff out there that I
Yeah.
think is helpful. It's really just looking at each individual function and saying, how could we reimagine this or do this better or faster with the folks we have now, or better leverage people to do the people side of the work and
Mhm.
automate the stuff that can be repeated.
Have you had talked to anybody about how much value AI and implementing AI effectively in a business can
Yeah.
actually, how that can affect the value of a business? Has that been?
Yeah, so a lot of what we do to start with, especially in process automation, is to look at how, the cost of delivering that um, outcome, the
Mhm.
milestone, the goal, whatever you're trying to accomplish.
Mhm.
And some companies don't even know the cost of delivering certain things, right? This
Like how
was
much
always a
it's
problem.
currently costing them?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, this was always a
Yeah.
challenge with product development of
Yeah.
what are all the costs that go into developing a product, and can you calculate
Yeah.
that to do pricing, to do cost-based pricing, and
Right.
now we're
Right.
getting
Right.
into the nitty-gritty, right?
Yeah.
So that has been hard for a lot of organizations. But
So,
if you can
so
start by saying, here's the human labor and here's the systems
mm,
that go into delivering this thing right now. There's two ways to look at the cost analysis. There's the efficiency of how much money can I save, and then there's the growth equation of how much more money could I make. And I think looking at it from both perspectives is important. I've seen an over rotation on the cost savings rather than the growth potential side. But
mm,
I think 2026 is going to be where we see a more balanced approach where we see
mm,
am I saving money or am I making money? And it's
yeah.
very
Or doing both.
right? And
Yeah,
in
can
a
we
lot
do
of
both?
instances it's
Exactly.
maybe both. that
Yeah.
I'm saving some money in this area and
Yeah.
I'm making money in another area. And
Right.
so that is moving directionally from a business perspective, where all businesses want to go, right? You want to reduce costs where you can, you want
Right.
to increase revenue where you can.
Mhm.
So looking at those systems and saying, are we having the impact that we're hoping to have? One of the problems with experimentation right now and personal productivity is you don't always see the data of how that's impacting the business. And
Mm.
so I do encourage companies to do more structured experimentation where they
Mm.
say, here's the problem we're trying to solve. We're going to run this for a couple weeks. We're going to
Yeah.
analyze the outcomes and say, is this better? Are we seeing the results that we were hoping to
Yeah.
see? It's great for everybody to experiment, but you're not learning from
Hmm.
the data of what is being seen in those experiments if you don't structure it and start to collect data baselines and deltas.
Nice.
So
So
yeah.
that's part of what you're helping to implement is
Yeah,
that
so
measurement.
once
Nice.
you can prioritize your AI opportunities within your organization, you can
Yeah.
structure pilots, you can
Oh
test and
yeah.
experiment, you can measure, and then you can see the outcome over time.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So, value. We're trying to build valuable businesses here. Having an AI informed business means that it's more durable and transferable. Presumably, it's future proof, right? Like people are going to, this is the way it's going.
Yeah.
And that's what people are going to want,
Yeah.
especially those who are got money burning the hole in the pocket looking to buy a business, right?
Yeah.
Um, when you have people that are trained and the systems are there to support them, then that business can grow without everything all on the founder, right? Like he
Yeah.
can start to he or she, excuse me, going back to the gender, right? But they can kind of take a step back, think more strategically about things, not be so caught up in it, be very pleased with the cost savings and the efficiency improvements that they're enjoying, but also then the increase in revenue potentially. Um, and like that value is also increasing when those processes are combining the tech, but also keeping the human there, right? So
Yeah.
that's the key message there.
Yeah.
I know we are way over time here, by the way. Are you okay?
I'm good. Yeah.
Okay, all right. So we're getting close to our wrap up here. I want to talk a little bit about, if we can, about how to use AI the right way, especially like the business owner, CEO leadership. Where should a business owner or founder start if they feel overwhelmed by AI?
Oh, that's a good question. Um, I think if if I was CEO of a bigger business than I am right now, so my business size is, we're a handful of folks.
Yeah.
So for us, AI, we're looking at whole systems of like what do we not have the capacity to do in our small business, and can we automate and leverage tools or consulting groups and AI mix for some of those things.
Are you are
Um,
you are you writing this down? Is there like a shared spreadsheet or something that you're putting all this
I
into, or?
Yeah, my business partner and I actually talk about the things. So candidly, one of the things that neither she nor I are good at is marketing and lead generation.
Okay.
So so we
Okay.
are, ironically, so we
Yeah.
are looking at how can we automate and augment some of those things with AI, and who are the
Mhm.
experts that we need to talk to that can help us do those things and bring in that perspective.
Mhm.
So for small businesses, I would say look for experts or kind of boutique consultants that can get help and educate you and also give you some systems to follow to get started. I think for people who are feeling overwhelmed, talking to somebody who's been doing this before and has can look at your business and give you some suggestions is why we do the diagnostic. Like give somebody
Yeah.
a starting point to say, what are some areas of your business that could have an impact, and then how do you get started?
Mhm.
So talk to someone who's been doing it. Talk to your peers, other folks in the industry who maybe been doing some experiments. Learn from that. Um, I also would recommend anybody who hasn't been using AI on a daily basis just to start practicing, learning, like challenge yourself to get on this learning curve, to
Do
start
you have,
practicing yourself. Because I think the more
do,
you use it, the more ideas you might have. Um,
yeah.
That's true.
right?
Do
Like
you have
you,
a recommended place that they can go for a workout? An
um,
AI,
that's a, I would say look at some of the things that you do every day. I'll give you an example.
yeah.
Um, I was looking for more speaking opportunities at events, but I don't really have time to look at all the events that are out there and figure out how to submit a proposal or contact
Mhm,
organizers or all of those things. So I created a GPT through ChatGPT
mhm.
um, that I run every week, and it gives me a list of events that are coming up that have calls for proposals or that are looking for speakers.
Nice.
And that was a way for me to kind of accomplish a goal that I had, but also do it in a way that I don't have time to do all that work myself. So I'm gonna
Hmm.
have create this GPT to do it. I would say
Hmm.
look for some of those things in your daily practice or things that you're interested in doing as a leader and start to experiment. See if you can create something. There are GPT architects in the regular old Chat GPT interface that if
Hmm.
you play with those, they'll walk you through building a
Oh,
GPT. They're very
okay.
user friendly. So, and you can just search for GPT architect and it'll it'll give you a list of them. So that's a really good and tangible way to get started is just
Fun
creating a
stuff.
GPT and practicing with it and training with
Hmm.
it and
Hmm.
starting to use it.
Okay.
Um,
Awesome.
Probably a really great like starting point for anyone, but leaders specifically, I feel like if you don't know where to get started, that's a great place to start and it's
Yeah.
you'll learn a lot.
Yeah. Kind of like
Mhm.
thinking about, what a VA might do for you in
Yeah.
some cases.
Mhm.
Absolutely. I think,
Yeah.
no offense to VAs because they are amazing,
Yeah.
but I think
Yeah.
if there are some specific tasks or areas that you're like, I could really use some
Yeah. They
help.
tend to be more process oriented, repetitive in nature,
Yes.
and those types of things are what AI is really good at. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
honestly, if there's market analysis, research reports, like those types of things, if you're looking at like, hey, I want an update every week on all of the messaging that my competitors have put out in the
Yeah.
market, and I want
Oof.
a compilation of that every
That could be
week.
extremely valuable.
Right? Like
Yeah.
you can create a system to
Yeah.
run that
Yeah.
research for you, and
Yeah.
it would be a lot less time than a virtual assistant, and you could automate that to have it run
Mm,
every week. I think it's those are the types of things
yeah.
that the more you experiment and you see what could be automated,
Yeah.
the more you can think about, okay, well, how might my team use this, or what
Yeah.
other things might I consider, is a great place to start.
Okay. Um, I think it's kind of like what is the saying? Any technology sufficiently advanced seems like magic. Like
Yeah.
I think that's kind of where we're at for some people.
Yeah. Sure.
Unfortunately, so a lot of it is like demystifying it, right? Like bringing
Yeah.
it down to earth and saying this is just input and an output, desired
Yeah.
outcome, and then how we're going to get there and bring it down to simple steps.
Yep.
But okay, how when you are when you're working with a team, do you ever encounter the situation where people are afraid that they're going to be replaced? Is that
Every
something that's ever
time.
come up? Okay,
Every time I
Mhm.
and
work with a team, people are worried that they're going to be replaced. In fact,
yeah,
I think a lot of managers and leaders are worried that they're going to be replaced. There's a big trend right now that it's not the more junior folks on the team that are being replaced. It's a lot of the more senior level that, which I think is a mistake, but that
yeah,
is absolutely happening right now. And there's a lot of question of how many managers do we need? Can we automate some of the functions of leaders, which again, I think is a mistake, but is
yeah.
happening.
Well,
And
if I
so,
guess if your manager, all he was doing was setting schedules and and
yeah,
budgets and all this kind of stuff, I suppose if you hadn't actually properly delegated to them,
yes.
I can understand
Well,
that. Yeah.
and there's a lot of like question around what is the role of a manager? Is the
Mm,
manager managing the work? Are they managing the people? Are they responsible for coaching and mentoring and developing talent? Are they
yeah.
responsible for getting results from a business perspective? Like,
Yeah.
what is that role and function? And depending on how you answer that question, some of those things are being automated. And so I do think that, or could be automated. And I
Yeah.
think that's where managers are also starting to look around and say, okay, how do I function in this new environment?
Mm,
So, um, yeah, there's kind of this interesting challenge happening right now, I think, in organizations where everyone is questioning what their future looks like.
yeah. They
Everyone is.
see Koreen come and they're like, oh my gosh, she's like the Grim Reaper here
And
of jobs.
I take a very kind of human-centric approach to this, which is
Yeah.
your job is changing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's think about how it's changing so that you can prepare for that change rather than be surprised by it or get caught, right? Like not paying attention. The
Yeah.
the goal is to actually help people through this transition and figure out what the new skills are that they need rather than to cut jobs. If you
Mm,
mentioned the statistic earlier that all of these jobs are going away, but conversely, all these jobs are being created.
right. Right.
If we think about that shift,
Yeah.
like how do we help people transition through those changes and reimagine kind of what their future looks like that they probably can't imagine right now? How
Mm,
can you stair step them through to get on that path to the future? I think is how you start to alleviate some of the fear.
mhm.
Because I think if you can give people visibility into maybe I can't tell you 5 years from now, but I can probably tell you 1 to 2 years from now how things are going
Yeah.
to look differently. Can I set you up for success in this next 1 to 2 years? And then it may happen again, right? Like then it becomes a
Yeah.
constant evaluation of, okay, well, got that. What else is changing? What else do I need to build? Like, how do I continue to evolve? That
Mhm.
perspective of I think everyone's worried about being left behind or that
Yeah.
they are replaceable. And if we can create a view that says you won't be replaced, but this is how your work is going to change and how your responsibilities will change, then it gives folks something to look forward to. It
Yeah.
gives them a goal to work towards. It gives them a future to kind of set on the path towards. Everybody's paths are changing right now, right? Like what we went to
Mhm.
college for, what we went to got trained on,
Yeah.
everything's shifting now. So how do we paint that picture of the future, I think is how we get past that fear.
You're
Yeah.
doing a great thing because people do give in to that fear. And when they give into the fear, that's when um, they don't adopt new skills.
Yeah.
They don't they don't change with the
Yep.
times. They don't investigate, well, how can this actually help me
Mm.
rather than replace me?
Yeah. I
And then they
mean,
end up being replaced because they've given into that fear.
Mm.
So
we're in a weird like um flight fight or freeze mode of like people are like okay I'm opting out,
Indecision
which
is
I think
killing
are
me,
like
right?
the folks
Yeah.
that I talked to that said I'm retiring, I can't do this is too much. They're probably
Yeah.
the flight category. There's a group of
Yeah.
folks that want to figure it out and just need some context, so I would say those are
Mhm.
the fighter folks.
yeah,
And then there's the freeze folks that are like I'm just going to wait and see what happens. I think that's dangerous. I do think like you
Yeah.
have to get into a place where you are in the mix and saying, okay, I want to figure this out.
Yeah.
But it is a scary time, I think, for
I
folks to try to reimagine what work looks like. So
yeah, I see an entire new category for HR professionals here,
oh,
built
yeah.
around AI, transitioning. Like,
Yeah,
wow.
it's such a funny thing because I work a lot with HR teams
Okay.
and learning and development teams,
Yeah.
and their jobs are changing so dramatically
Mhm.
that if an HR person saw themselves as like the person who helped with hiring and firing and exiting and benefits, um, that role is still there, but now there's a whole nother layer, which is you need to understand the work to be done and what
Yeah.
people's skills are needed to do that work. And which is why I wrote, part of the reason I wrote my book was to talk about this idea of skills and how can HR and L&D people better understand what skills are needed,
Hmm.
and what skills people have. That kind of balance of what skills do I have, what skills do I need, and then how do we
Yeah.
map that to the work to be done is probably the future of
Yeah.
HR and L&D teams for the
That's
foreseeable future.
that's like its own gap analysis there, right?
It is. It
Just
is.
for the workforce.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. And to be
Yeah.
able to have insight into um, what skills people have, which is
Hmm.
a challenge. And then you say, okay, but what skills do I need for the work to be done, which is the other
Yeah.
piece. No company right now that I've really seen, there's a couple that are a little farther ahead, but most companies can't answer either of those questions. And so, like now, we're at a point where being able to answer those questions is really important because everything's changing. So being able to come into a company and talk to them about both of those areas and give them
Mm.
deeper insight and then make a plan to move forward is why I wrote the book and what I'm hoping to help organizations navigate.
Nice. Very good. Awesome. All right. So, been a great conversation. I gotta say, it's really, really fascinating for me. So many tangents that we could go down in this conversation.
Right? I know. There's like the big societal issues, and then there's
Holy
the like
cow.
very tangible company challenges. Yeah.
Wow. This is a very, pervasive, all-encompassing sort of a situation. This is why they're calling it a fundamental, once in a generation type of a shift that's
Yeah.
occurred with AI. There's a reason why they're saying that because it just impacts so many different facets. And it is such a big thing.
Yeah.
It's very easy to see how people can become overwhelmed and very highly intimidated. I totally get it.
This is
But
why I think
here's
that
Korean helping. Korean is here to
I'm
help
trying.
everyone, okay?
This is
To the
why
rescue.
I argue that
Yeah.
Gen X is the best prepared generation for
Oh,
everything
yeah.
that's happening because when we entered the workforce, it was the initial internet kind of digital transformation that
That's
was
right.
happening,
That's right.
That's true. Yeah.
We've been
right?
through
Like
various upheavals.
we've been through
Yeah.
it. We went through that whole like digital. Now we're going through this AI transformation, and we're like, okay,
Yeah.
we saw how
Yep.
this
Yep.
goes. It is huge.
Hmm.
It's a big shift, but we can help navigate it because we kind of been there before. Just got to keep our wits about us and make sure we're thinking
Yeah,
things through. Yeah.
definitely. Awesome. Good point. They need us. They
Right.
need
They
Gen
do need
X.
us.
Yeah.
Um,
Not done yet.
all right. So just to tie this into the V3 here, what we're talking about, visibility, having AI, using AI supports consistent outreach and content as long as the human is not taken out of the equation there, right? Viability, going back to that, the AI can help strengthen your workflow and your delivery capacity. But again, you need the human there. So far, so good, right? And then building a business that is valuable these days, you're going to need to look and think about, consider AI, how to implement it well. This is the key, and how it can impact your efficiency, how it can increase your revenues. There's so many good things here. Let's focus on the positive, um, and maybe for the leaders who are concerned about, oh well, is this going to eliminate my workers' jobs? I would feel bad about that. Fear not, it's just going to look different, right? So yeah, all good stuff. Anything else? Simone? Yeah, what do you got here? Want to take us out?
I don't have anything else except to tell our watchers to subscribe to this channel for more, share this video, and if you learned something today, share with us in the comments what your biggest takeaway is. I would love to hear it. We would love to hear what you're thinking and what you got out of it. Thank you so much to Koreen for joining us today. You gave us some great insights. We so appreciate it.
Really good
And
stuff.
and some great news. AI
Yeah,
can't replace people.
that's right. At least not yet.
No, it's gonna multiply your skills. It's and I liked one of the words that you've been using throughout this whole episode. It is a tool,
Mm,
and it is up to us to build our skills in order to use that tool so that to help us to be more productive, to be more efficient, and to use it in such a way that it makes our work better. So there is the opportunities that we're in now. It's about collaboration between human and tech rather than the tech replacing us, because we are God's people. He created us. We can never be replaced. So we need skills, systems, and strategy. And that's what makes AI valuable, not just the tool itself. So thank you so much for joining us today, and we will see you next time. Thank you so much, Koreen.
Thank you for
Make
having
sure you visit www.risingtidecooperative.com to find out more about Koreen and her business. So
Yes,
throw that in
and oh, I should hold up my book.
Oh yeah,
Oh, there we go.
show the book.
Building the skills-based organization.
Buy
Awesome.
this on any of your favorite online retailers or local bookstores can order it.
Absolutely. I can include a link in the show notes and elsewhere.
Yeah.
So
Awesome.
make sure you get that to me.
I'll do too. Okay. Thank you. Wonderful. Thank you. And we'll see you next time.